Hey Kate, how are you?
Hey Rusty, how you going? I heard you're back in Australia. You made it out of prison. I was wondering if you want to catch up for a drink.
Yeah, for sure. I'm down at the Mossman Row, so why don't you just come down and I'm gonna order us some gin martinis. You up for one of them?
Ooh, gin martini. You know me well. I'll be there. For our second episode of At the Bar, I've been lucky enough to track down the very elusive and hard to pin down Rusty Young. Now, Rusty is a former lawyer and he's actually known probably best as author of the international bestseller, Marching Powder. And also more recently, he's released a book called Colombiano, which he's going to tell us a little bit more about. Welcome, Rusty. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, and thank you for that shameless product placement.
We do what we can. We do what we can. So this series is called At the Bar with Kate because we try to bring along our guest's favourite drink just to make you feel a little more comfortable. And today, what kind of drink do we have today?
This is a gin martini.
And gin martini, that's your favourite drink?
I usually only have one of them to start off because it's pretty strong, and if you keep drinking, you end up sort of a little bit legless.
Have you had any memorable or non-memorable nights?
None that I can remember.
Well, it sounds like a good drink. Sitting here at Mossman Rowers Club because this is where you grew up and your parents lived here, and I believe you're actually school captain of a school nearby.
Yeah, I had an underprivileged upbringing in the dangerous slums of South Central Mossman, which is just out here. In all seriousness, I had a wonderful upbringing, wonderful parents, wonderful sister, good education, and went to law school and then ended up traipsing off to South America and changing my life absolutely completely.
I believe you went to UNSW Law School like myself.
That's right, yeah. I actually, ironically, at the valedictory dinner in the final year, they had the most likely to end up as a High Court judge, the most likely to become a millionaire, and I was voted by the valedictory class as most likely to end up in prison.
Oh really? And why is that? Why do you think they said that?
I wasn't a typical law student. I remember when I lined up to register in the first year law, I had dreadlocks and bare feet, and they sort of said, "Oh, the arts course is over there," and they didn't actually believe that I'd qualified for law.
And that's so funny that they said you were the most likely to end up in prison because you actually did end up in prison. And explain how at 24 years old you were living in a prison in Bolivia.
Yeah, well actually I was dating a girl called Simone Camilleri from New South Wales Law School, and at the end of our degree we decided to go travelling just before getting a job, and we travelled around South America and we heard about this really strange prison where you could actually visit. You could pay $5 to go inside this fully functional male prison as a tourist attraction, and I was like, well, why would you want to do that? But it was listed in the Lonely Planet guidebook as the world's most bizarre tourist attraction, and it certainly lived up to its name. And once inside, the government really doesn't look after the prisoners at all. They give them a bowl of watery soup every day. The police don't go inside the prison other than once a day to check the roll. So the prisoners sort of run the prison themselves, and they also need money because they need to buy clothes, they need to buy food, they need to buy toiletries. And so this guy, Thomas McFadden, hit upon the idea of running guided tours inside the prison. So you'd pay your $5 at the gate to the guards, leave your passport, go in there and do a 1 hour tour, and he would take you around the different sections. I did the tour and we ended up staying the night in there. So that was what the Lonely Planet guidebook didn't say. It was for an extra $5 you could actually spend the night in the prison. It was only $5, but the hostels were $8. So it was actually cheaper to stay inside the prison than to stay in a hostel.
Right, and in March...
Are we drinking?
We are drinking, cheers.
Is it past breakfast?
It's past 12 p.m. I think we can do this. And the other thing that really struck with me was that obviously the prison is running on bribes and money and whatever, but they were making cocaine in the prison. Is that right? How does that happen?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically the majority of it's a minimum security prison, so the majority of the inmates are in there for drug trafficking offences, and in many cases quite low-level offences. So you have a collection of people who are either international smugglers, such as Thomas. You have people who know how to cultivate the leaf, people who know how to break down the leaf, people who know how to make laboratories, and other people who know how to refine it into cocaine hydrochloride. So you've got all this knowledge. It's almost like a university of cocaine in there, and they need money. So what do? They just do what they know best, and they actually were manufacturing cocaine in the prison, and allegedly San Pedro prison has the cheapest and purest cocaine in the world.
How much allegedly would a gram of cocaine be there?
Well, I heard allegedly through a third-party source, Kate,
exactly.
About $2 US for
Wow.
1 gram of cocaine, and I believe in Australia it goes for around $300 or $400. So that's a huge markup.
But tell us about Colombiano. What inspired this?
Yes, it's a story of Pedro. So I interviewed a lot of child soldiers, but it's a story of Pedro whose father is killed in front of him, and then it's about the breakdown and the lawlessness that occurs as a result of the drug trade in Colombia.
And Pedro is a fictional character, but I believe it's based on a whole bunch of real stories, from stories that you collected by interviewing real child soldiers in Colombia.
Yeah, well, I mean, after this is going to sound like a weird career move. I went from law to prison voluntarily, and then I moved to Colombia, and so what we were doing is training up the local SWAT teams to effectuate kidnap rescues. Not me personally. I'm a humble lawyer, but they had people from the special forces, from Marines, come down from the US to train up the local SWAT teams. And as a result of all these contacts with people on this army base and police base, I met lots of child soldiers who had been captured, and I got their stories.
And so you've just mentioned Pablo Escobar, which leads me into talking about your new documentary, Wildlands, which is amazing. I've seen it and loved it.
Thank you.
You interviewed Pablo Escobar's right-hand man. What was that like? What's his name?
His name is John Jairo Velasquez, and his nickname was Popeye, and I think he featured in Narcos under a different name. He's the only remaining living high-ranking member of the Medellin cartel, and he actually was accused of killing 3,000 people.
Wow.
And he got out of prison after 23 years. So just do the maths there. It's like
23 years.
I don't know how many weeks per murder, but yeah. Absolute sort of stone cold.
It's like 100 per year.
Yeah, absolute stone cold killer, and a real psychopath. Like, I've never actually met a psychopath. He's extremely charming, in fact quite funny, engaging, looks you in the eye, really sort of, gets into your psyche. And I had trouble at times kind of keeping a professional distance and also having a chat like we are. We weren't drinking gin martinis.
Well, that's a shame. That's what was missing. So what's your next project? Have you got anything in the works? Any new documentaries or books coming?
My next plan is to get a hammock and string it between 2 coconut trees.
Yep.
And sleep.
That sounds like an excellent project. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that, Kate.
Now we have one final thing that I like to do, where I started this game with Michael Kirby, and I think it's going to become a bit of a regular section in this series. So it's 5 fast questions, and you have to either hold up a red paddle or a green paddle.
And what's the red for?
So it's either a concurring opinion for green or in dissent if you're in the red. So if you agree with what I propose, obviously concur, and the red in dissent.
So I'm imagining that Justice Kirby was in dissent.
He dissented for a lot of things.
Just for the sake of it?
Basically, yes. So the first one, this is a controversial one. I wanted to raise it with you just to see what you think. Pineapple on pizza.
Dissent.
That's the correct answer, my friend.
That should be outlawed.
It should be illegal. So you like gin. A lot of my friends and I have an ongoing argument about what should go in a gin and tonic. What did you think of cucumber?
In a martini, dissent. I'm going to say dirty olive.
Dirty olive, that's it. And a lemon, not lime. Get that right. So maybe we got something more serious here. What do you think of decriminalising drug use like Portugal has done?
It might sound contradictory, but I'm going to say I'm against decriminalisation because I don't think it goes far enough. I think it allows the drug trade to continue and allows criminals to act with impunity. Regulate it, put those people over there, register the drug users, tell them they've got problems, discriminate against them, get their health files, send them to rehab.
Yeah. So I guess then my next question would be, what do you think of legalising drugs altogether? Dissent or concur?
I'm going to say 50-50.
Okay.
I'm definitely in favour of legalising and taxing cocaine. That's an area that I am au fait with.
Because you've seen the bad side of the cocaine
I've seen
trade.
the deleterious effects of the drug trade in South America. Far more people die in the war on drugs than die from cocaine overdoses every year. I hesitate to promote the legalisation of heroin and ice. I just think that they're a different category of drugs, so that's not my area of expertise. So I'll bow out of that question if I can.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that all makes very much sense, and that's probably a good way to end. So
All
thanks
right.
so much for coming along.
I think we should end with you finishing your drink.
We really should. Cheers, guys. Thanks for coming, Rusty.
Thank you for watching.
We'll see you again soon. I'm gonna have a sip. This is looking too good. It is like 10 a.m. though, isn't it? Oof, nice and lemony.